So what we're going to do now is the lovely people from HTC are going to come up and they're going to chat about HTC and then they're going to do a Q&A. So I'll let him introduce himself, but give a round of applause for the guys from HTC.
So hi guys, my name is Graham Wheeler. I'm Director of Products and Services for EMEA for HTC. So I'm going to go through the presentation that we showed to all our journalists before we launched the phone this year at MWC. So I'm just going to run through a little bit of an introduction to HTC. So for us, obviously that legacy is the HTC One M9. It's our third generation of the HTC One range. But with the HTC One, we're just incredibly proud of the fact that we were the most awarded smartphone of with the most awarded smartphone with the HTC One M7 and also with the HTC One M8. So we know we have something that works, a formula that actually allows us to evolve. And that's what we've done. And if I look at HTC, I've been in HTC for 9 years. And I've seen HTC's change. When I first started at HTC, we were an ODM. We were just making phones for other manufacturers without our branding on. And then we obviously took that step in 2007 to put our branding on it. And since then, actually, what we've been concentrating on is evolving ourselves from a very engineering-led company to a design-led company. And that's shown in our products. We're first and foremost looking at the design, making sure that every part of the HTC experience when using a phone is really, really good. For the design, obviously, when we looked at designing the HTC One M9, we took inspiration from our previous phones. So if you looked at the M7, we described that as that iconic design, something that stood out. If you want to akin to the Porsche 911, it set the bar in the industry. And if you look at how that phone is designed and then look at it from HTC's evolution, but not only HTC, but in the wider industry of the mobile phones as a whole, you'll see our design influences coming through. So we evolved that design, or looking to evolve that design. But with the HTC One M8, the thing that we fundamentally worked on was ergonomics, how we component stack, making sure every of the components sort of formed a very perfect arc, so it fitted in your hand perfectly. One of my stories that I always tell about that is when I went to see Peter in Taiwan, and he actually would pull out a mock-up of the HTC One M8 and play with it, listen to it, put it to his ear, put it in his pocket, etc. like that. And that was just because he wanted to feel, is it feeling like a phone? Does it fit in the pockets nicely? Does it have that form and function to create a beautiful body? So that's the two inspirations that we took for the M9. So we wanted to make sure that the form still fitted in the hand. It still felt like a phone, and it had really nice perch points. But we didn't want to stop there. Obviously, we're great at design, but we wanted to actually take inspiration from other sources. And what we wanted to understand is, what is your mobile phone? Well, your mobile phone to you is your piece of jewelry, because you're guaranteed to not leave the house without your mobile phone. It's the item that you will forget your watch, you'll forget loads of other things, even sometimes your wallet, but you're going to take your phone with you. So it's got to be something that's treated as a piece of jewelry that you take with you. So we took inspiration from the other sectors of jewelry and things like that. And one of the things that we noticed with those, after studying them quite well, is their use of colour to show that craftsmanship. And the idea of putting different colour elements to emphasise the detail and emphasise the beauty of the structure. So that's what we did. We created a two-tone design with the devices. So we created the ability to take one colour and actually on the sidewalls actually re-grout and re-texture and actually put a new coating on the side of the device so that it really showed that crafted design. And it's available in 3 colours, and you'll see this in the UK. So this is the gold on silver. There is obviously the gold on the side. Skipping through this. So this is the gunmetal. And what we've done is actually over-polished the sidewalls, so they have quite a shine to them, and it stands out when looking at it. And then the last is the gold on gold. And again, it's an over-polished sidewall on the device. The thing I would say about them is these are really difficult to represent in photography and shooting. And that's one of the things that we believe is actually you need to see the craftsmanship of the design, feel it, and hold it. Because actually, all those sidewalls, in some angles, you don't see them. You just, the colour graduates into the actual back of the frame. But it's sort of the essence of detail that we always look at. So for example, if you have a look at the HTC M9 there, you'll see the power button is machined with a certain texture so that when you're holding it in your hand, you can feel that power button. And it's not just a bump, it's actually a very nice aesthetic holding point to make sure it really feels really good. But for us, craftsmanship doesn't just end with a structural design. Actually, it goes far beyond that. And HTC has obviously its Sense 7. And with its Sense 7, we wanted to, first off, make it much, much more personal. So many times have I seen people sort of picking out their phone, having a beautiful lock screen that actually matters to them, something designed or taken just for them. And then when they unlock the phone, they have a very, very different characteristic inside. It's either a black and white home screen of their daughter or their loved one, etc. And then when they unlock it, it becomes a colour frenzy. So it doesn't look like that picture was part of the design of the actual phone. So with the HTC Sense 7, we worked on that and made sure that when you have the phone, it looks like it's designed around you. So just taking a single picture, it will analyse that picture and then create the colour palette of the different features in the device and actually allow that picture to flow through the entire phone itself. But it's not just, from us, we are actually adding, not from you, sorry, we're adding different themes ourselves. The other thing we wanted to do is make sure the phone was contextually aware. So what I mean by that is that when you walk into your house, you're going to need different applications to when you get into work. So the phone will automatically adjust the applications on the home screen to allow you to make best use of them. And it learns from those locations. So the more you use applications in those locations, the more they adapt. And don't worry, you can remove one. So if there's Clash of Clans or something at work, you don't need to have that on the home screen so your boss sees it. That location awareness isn't just into the applications, it's actually throughout the device, whether it's the blink feed, providing restaurant choices from Foursquare, or even the actual lock screen itself. It will show you what you're wanting or what you're needing around the time, even down to something like the sunset. An hour before the sunset, the lock screen will give you that notification of the sunset time exactly where you are, so you can decide whether or not you want to ride home before lights, etc. like that. So that's the main emphasis on design, but we're also known for quite a lot more. So first off is our boom sound. It's part of our DNA, something that we really wanted to make sure is outstanding. For the HTC One M8, we developed a much better amplifier that will automatically adjust different parts of the track at different rates. So if you had a heavy bass vocals, it would adjust the bass element of the track, so it wouldn't crash the speakers out, but keep that sort of high-end low fidelity. It's just an internal joke. Much clearer and much better in the actual phone itself. So we knew we had a really good, a beautifully loud experience as well. So what we wanted to do is actually make sure that we added a bit of an extra element to into the boom sound experience. And what we did is we worked with Dolby, and we've created a surround sound effect when using the phone. So what that essentially means is when you're listening to something from the front-facing speakers, it will give you a 5.1-esque feel, because it will actually adapt the sound and actually put you at the centre of the point of the music. But it's not just on the front-facing speakers, it will also do that on the headphone jack as well. So it really does create the best audio experience. But part of the point that we want to make sure is that it's not just great hardware, it's got to be great software as well. That's part of our philosophy, to make sure. One of the things we've done with HTC Connect is allow you to just throw the music to a Bluetooth speaker or anything around, just by a 3-finger gesture, swiping up the screen. What we've done with the HTC One M9 is improve that further. So we've worked with different manufacturers, so for example Harman Kardon and their Blackfire range of protocol, and also Qualcomm their Orplay protocol, to make sure that that 3-finger gesture is actually supported within that, with those protocols. So what that means is if you go into a house and they have the Wi-Fi speaker set up, you can play one track in one room, another track in another room, or if you've got multiple people at the party with the same phone, they can actually have a jukebox mode where they can have different songs playing to the same speaker, one after each other, queued up. So it really allows you to have some great music and simple music experience. We're also really not afraid to take risks with our camera technology. We've obviously introduced our ultra-pixel camera with the HTC One M7, and that's a pixel size that's 4 nanometers square, so it's incredibly large, and it captures much more light, 300% more light than a normal megapixel camera. And that allows us to get quicker shots in darker environments, and also much sort of low light performance beyond anything out there. One of the things that we did when looking at the HTC One M9 is sort of re-look again at what we're using our camera phones for. And actually, it's fair to say that our camera habits have changed in the last 2 years. If I'd asked you 2 years ago what the word selfie was, you'd probably all maybe have heard about it. It's now the craze. Almost everyone is doing selfies, and people see the selfie camera as their main camera. We've seen that trend, and that's why we created the Desire Eye with the front-facing camera, the same as the rear-facing camera. But we wanted to make sure that we had the same great experience with the HTC One M9. So what we did is took last year's ultra-pixel camera and put it on the front of the device. So it's a 4 ultra-pixel camera, really making sure that you get that best shot, wide-angle lens as well. But then we looked at the rear. And what would you do when you've got a great low-light performance camera, and what would you want to do next with the rear camera? Well, probably one of the things that your biggest criticism of our camera was the ability to crop and zoom on landscape shots, etc. like that. So that's what we've done. We created a camera that has a 20 megapixel lens to allow you to make sure that you can go to that absolute detail and crop in and zoom in on those pictures. So make sure you've got basically 360 degrees worth of photography. The photography is actually only part of the story. One of the things I think we always talk about is, as I said, the usability. And one of the things that you'll find is part of your digital life, you've got pictures everywhere, and you're worst in your families, no doubt, that you're actually going to have pictures on different phones, because you're changing your phones quite often. So you never have all the pictures in one place. So you go and to try and show a friend, oh, I've got this great picture of, it's in the other phone. So what HTC's done is created one gallery, and it's the one place where all your pictures are. You log in, whether Dropbox, Flickr, Google Drive, or Dropbox, it's all of them, and it will actually download a thumbnail of all the pictures that you've uploaded to those locations so that they're on your device. It's a thumbnail, it's not very large, so it's not going to take up much memory on your device, but it also means that once they're there, you can do some things with them. First, you can find them, you can go to the calendar view, look a couple of days or a couple of years ago and scroll in and show the picture of a holiday. Or better still, you can actually do image matching. So say, for example, you've taken a picture of yourself, you can image match yourself, and the system will automatically then look for all the previous pictures of you so that you can find that special shot that you don't know when you took it, but you wanted to re-see it again and show a friend. So they're just the highlights of what we've shown. One of the things that we also have is the best spec. So in terms of the full HD display, it's a really crisp, clear display, but it's also running the 810 processor, fastest processor from Qualcomm. It's a full system on chip, 3 gig of RAM, 32 gig onboard storage with expandable memory slot as well, and a boom sound, and as I said, the ultra-pixel front-facing and the 20 megapixel rear-facing camera. That's pretty much the highlights of HTC. What I'm going to do is talk about the other things first, because actually, one of the things about HTC is for the last 15 years, we've only ever made mobile phones. And in the last 6 months, we've branched out. First, we created the Rees that you're seeing everyone wearing and looking around here. And that's our first foray into the camera. And that's one of the things I'd say about HTC is that actually we're not afraid to re-look at something. That point-and-shoot market has massively declined over the years, where your mobile phone is taken over you. But what that's meant is that if you look around and you look at concerts or children's nativity plays, pretty much everyone's just sitting there, not actually watching that event, but they're watching it through a screen on their phone or their tablet or something like that. We think that's not so great for some experiences. We want to make sure that you can be there, be part of the moment. So that's why we created the Ring. Obviously there is no screen, it's a wide angle lens, it's meant to be held and just allow you to be part of the action, so that if on that concert you say, oh, that's my favourite song, rather than pick it up and just record it and therefore miss that moment that you wanted to listen to, you actually get the chance to listen to it, see it, but at the same time know that you're still capturing it for your own personal memory to look back. That's obviously our first foray out of the mobile phone industry. The second one was the thing we launched at MWC, which is the Revive, which is our virtual reality headset. And I have to say, this is the most exciting thing that we've done for a long time. Not because we've not done exciting things, but it is just outstanding the possibilities that we could have with this virtual reality headset. It's the only time I've ever known in HTC that we're actually limited by our own imagination. And what I mean by that is that we haven't stopped thinking of ideas that we could use this virtual reality headset with. Of course, we worked with Valve, we're working with a great games partner, and that's the starting point for it. But the virtual reality doesn't end there. So for example, if you want to go to shopping and you want to buy furniture, why do you have to go round a really depressing department store looking at furniture? Why not just put on a headset, put the dimensions of your room in, pick up the furniture virtually, move it around the room, and then just walk through the gaps between the things, see if they're able to walk between. And you're not actually sort of guessing by measuring tape, you're physically walking around those items. And if you don't like it, you can just easily pick them up, throw them around the room, etc. like that. Estate agents, why do you need to be at the house? You can walk around with someone on the other side of the world. You can be anyone you want to be. I was at a dinner the other day, and one of the people in there, and I was lucky enough to be sitting next to a Saturday, which I have no idea who she was, but it seemed like a good thing at the time. But she was saying how wouldn't it be a great thing, actually, they could record their concert and a little girl could put on a headset and actually be dancing on stage next to the band that they love. These are just simple ideas that are very easy to do. And I have to say, one of the things playing the demo, and we did try and get it here, but it's just not quite ready in the development state to be movable at the moment. It is outstanding. It genuinely is, and we will make sure that we get the ability to show you guys how outstanding it is there. But that's pretty much one of the things I'd say about HTC. We are an exciting company. We're not just making phones, we're making some amazing cool stuff. One last thing I'm going to show you is not the HTC advert, but it just shows you some of the fun things that we've done in HTC. not many companies out there that can get Robert Downey Jr. to do their teaser advert for them and the build up to a launch of a smartphone, and HTC's one. So it's something that we do try and do things differently. We don't try and stick with the norm, but that's our idea. And so I'm just going to finish talking now and hand over to Laura, who's going to
shout or something.
Yeah.
Oh, this whole thing. This feels like hello. Is it?
There's a little button just on
There's
the
a
bottom.
button?
Press. It's very loud.
Do I have to hold it?
No, there you go. You should be able to hear.
Is it on?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
This feels like calling out burgers, right? Like, order number 28 with fries. How far down is it?
You can pull it up.
This is so weird.
I know.
I like the headset. Oh,
There you
okay, cool. And I turn it off, right?
Yeah. Don't lock it.
And it's back on. Okay. So I'm Laura Kimball. I'm also with HTC. Part of the reason why I'm here is I lead a community called HTC Elevate, which is how we know James and Gary and Stu and Wade also. This is our online community for people who are massively crazy, awesomely obsessed with HTC. And so if anybody in the room just wants more information or has an HTC and is not a member, come see me. We'll be over at the HTC table all day. And we're actually hosting an event in London on Thursday for some more time to get hands-on with the M9. So if you guys want to sneak in, we're at capacity, but I've got a couple extra spaces if anybody is in London next Thursday and wants to attend. And then we can roll into some Q&A if anybody, or before we go into Q&A, we do have some M9s over on the table so you guys can play with them and check out all the different features and see what the dual tone finish looks like.
And give one to me.
We're leaving with all of them, and I'm really good at not having any devices disappear, so sorry, James, I'm watching you like a hawk, and everybody else. Does anybody have any questions about anything that Graham talked about or anything HTC related? Yes, in the back.
With the M8, we obviously have the 4 megapixel ultra pixel on the back, and you switched it to 20 megapixel, but how come you guys decided to drop OIS?
Actually, it's in terms of the structure of the phone, we looked at the trade-off in terms of actually sizing and spacing. With OIS, you actually have to have it's what's called a TTL, time to lens, which is slightly longer, and that would that sort of limit us with the sensor. We've worked on quite a lot of technical aspects when it comes to the actual image processing. So there's something I went into in an Elevate video, which is it's a dynamic order exposure algorithm that will automatically look at a shot and actually rebalance it, and that will help against sort of taking shots that are too overexposed in one area, etc., like that. So we try to create a great experience, but without the OS, which impeded in the overall design of the handset.
With the Vive,
Yeah.
Super excited about virtual reality at the minute. What kind of I've noticed it's got a lot of sensors on the front, but I haven't really managed to find out a lot about it. But in terms of manoeuvrability, how is it going to work? Because are you going to be tied to like a Steam machine, or is it going to be?
So you are tied to a PC. There is, because the refresh rate that we're doing needs to be over cable at the moment. So you're tied to a PC with a reasonable graphics card at the moment, and this is obviously the starting point.
Yeah.
What happens is there is what they're called light boxes in the room, which are separated into two different points. 2 light boxes come part of the dev kit, and 2 controllers, hand controllers. At the moment, most of the pictures you might have seen online is they're wired. These will be wireless when we go live with the dev kit. And what it will do is track, and that's why you see those of sensors on it. Find those light boxes actually allow it to basically track you in the room to a very, very specific point. But it doesn't just track your head, it tracks your hands and everything. So say, for example, you're in a game and you want to draw an arrow, it's tracking you while you do that, tracking you while you're doing that, and then how far back, even if you're out of sight. What I would describe it, and this is maybe to give people a good sense of how it's different, because a lot of people are saying, well, how is this different to, say, Oculus Rift and things like that? Oculus Rift is a seated position. For want of a better word, I describe it as being on a roller coaster. You're sat in it, you can look around, but you're going on the tracks. Ours, you're in a flying car that basically you can decide whether you want to walk off and go somewhere else, because you're not restricted by the point you're sat, and you can just do that, and that, and then it moves forward. What you do is you get up, you walk around, There's cameras here. You walk around the other side, you look at the camera from the other side, you come back, and then you decide whether or not you want to kind of have a look at something else. So that's the idea behind it. And it's limited to the space that you've got available. I think that there is maximum dimensions, but I can't remember them off the top of my head.
On the subject of space,
Yeah.
there's maximums. Are there also minimums? I need a certain amount of space to be able to set up that demo kit?
I don't know the exact minimum, but to be honest, it's a walking space. So the system will scale depending on the space you have available, and it also should detect whether things walk in. So the aim in the future is, so you make a safe zone, and it will try and detect if things walk in as collision detection and things like that. But before you start playing a game, you set a safe area. So for example, you're on stage, you're set there, and the system will alert you that you're at the edge of the game, so it doesn't let you walk off and step off the stage. But that's something you do in the setup of the system.
Are you I was really watching this. How about right there? Sorry, I'll give you guys. Okay, Red Switcher.
You have the program in the US. Are there any plans to bring it to the UK?
So we are looking at it at the moment. It's not something we're announcing. So the HTC Advantage with the 2-year upgrade and things like that, we're obviously we're supporting in the Europe as well. But the screen breaking and water damage, we're not supporting at the moment. But we are in sort of analysis of it. As you know, it's just down to building that costing into the actual cost of the device, etc., like that. And even though it's for free, nothing is for free, I'm afraid, in the world. So.
Okay, right here.
When are we going to start seeing development kits for the VR unit?
So VR should start seeing development units relatively soon, sort of end of spring, summer time frames. We're actually already working with Valve doing closed door development things there.
Yeah, and then if you want on the list, go to, what is the website? Is it? I will find it and remind the Merchant Droids guys. There's a place where you can sign up on the Vive website for information.
Just to be clear, at the moment we're looking with partners in terms of developing, so the development kits are not going to be available for everyone in terms of at the early stages. These are about us getting excited. We will have a commercial product before the end of the year. So the development kits are just there to allow us to have content before the end of the year.
Switch over in front.
In terms of the lovely build quality of the HTC M9, how long before that will trickle down to the lower end of the market, so the sort of sub £200 handsets for HTC?
So HTC has 2 design families, so the HTC One and the HTC Desire family. And we believe in actually keeping that design ethos coming down. And if you actually look at our Desire handsets, so the HTC Desire I or the 820 or the 620, you will see that we have utilised quite a lot of that unibody design construction, but actually added a different flavour. We believe that people that are looking for the Desire 200, no disrespect, we don't want to try and kid you with fake metal or something that doesn't actually have a bespoking to the audience that are looking for that. And so we have a different design language, but it is very much premium in that sector. Maybe I can talk about it all the days long. We really have worked on different processes that really offer a premium in the Desire experience. But every year, every time we're doing the pitch and test, you see some of that colour, texture, palette coming down into the lower tier handsets, but it's not the same. We are not going to use metal in a £200 because actually the metal, if you look at the HTC One M9, actually we start with a massive block. Almost 95% of that block is machined out of that block to make one case. It takes over 200 minutes to make a case and 70 processes. So it's an incredible amount of effort, and to actually do that at the same time as keeping it a $200 or £1 device, it's just not going to work.
So I've got some desires that I'll pull out that you can look at and feel. So. Okay, I'm going in the back row again.
can we
Oh,
just,
sorry.
gentleman just over to the side there with the magnificent beard.
Yes, go for it.
How's HTC going to change now that Xiao Wang's taken over as CEO?
I was wondering if that was going to come up.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, these are my personal thoughts. This is not the official line, because obviously I don't think there'd be very different changing, because actually Peter's not stepping away from the company. What Peter's working on is sort of part of the design labs or design projects, I think. I can't remember what the wording was.
HTC Future Design Labs.
Future Design Lab. And that's actually where a lot of our handset design is done. So I don't believe that there'll be a fundamental shift in HTC, and it'll be very similar. Peter's influence will still be within the company for sure. But Cher has, over the period of many years,
Last couple of years,
the
I
last
mean,
couple of years.
the org that I'm on in global, we've
Yeah.
reported directly up to her,
Yeah.
and it's actually been kind of fun over the past couple of years just to see the changes that have come through. So
Yeah.
who knows? We don't really know what'll happen, but
Yeah.
it'll be a good chapter.
Yeah, but as I say, I don't think you'll see
Probably
remarkable
not.
changes outside of HTC. We're still, the path that we're on with Peter is still very far and still be carried
I
on.
would say most of the changes you saw were announced earlier this month, with our new products and kind of what's been coming out
Yeah.
and what's coming next. Do you have any more? Or? Okay, cool.
I think that's
We've got one big one.
Yep, in the back.
We obviously saw with the M8 we had the GeoS camera. Are we gonna, and then with the M9 we've kind of gone back to a single lens. Are we, as HTC, still kind of exploring the
Yeah.
refocal at a later date?
Absolutely. So if you look at the actually M9, you'll find there's a camera tray application in the different cameras, and you can actually download the bokeh camera, because actually that duo camera created a bokeh effect, which is the blurring in the background. And that's something you can do with a single shot. It doesn't allow the readjustment that we did with the M9, but it still allows you to create that effect if you like that effect. And we'll be looking at actually adding extra camera features and functionality within that camera tray as we go through the life of the product.
Okay, cool. We'll be here most of the afternoon.
Does anybody else have any questions? No? Let's have a round of applause for